So welcome back to a new video. I'm trying something different today. It's something I've wanted to do for a little while now. Instead of doing a regular Let's Play video, I'm gonna be doing a top 10 list. It's not exactly an original video either. Like, Let's Plays aren't very original and neither are top 10 videos, but you know, it should work. It should work out. It should be fine, hopefully. In the future I might try to do more discussion-based videos. If people like this, then I might try to do more. Maybe some reviews or something. Because I think it's certainly easier if I don't have to split my focus on playing a game, and I can just talk about something at the same time, or without the game to distract me from that. Anyways, so recently there was an announcement for Smash Brothers on the Switch. I'm a little bit late to make a video on it. Lots of people have made videos on it already, but you know, whatever. We've already seen that the Inklings are going to be in Smash from Splatoon. The Inklings from Splatoon are going to be in Smash Brothers. So we know that it has new characters. It's still unclear if it's going to be a port or if it's going to be an entirely new game. A lot of people are saying it's been enough time, so it could be a brand new game. So there's no reason not to speculate and wonder about which characters are coming. So I made a top 10 list of characters that I'd like to see in the next Smash, and then some honorable mentions at the end. A couple of disclaimers. This is more of like an opinion piece than like a statement that I'm saying like these characters should be in Smash, and absolutely if they put anybody else in, it's gonna be terrible. It's not that, and it's not that I'm making like a theory like these are the characters most likely to appear or anything like that. The conditions for the list are just characters I'd like to see and who have a relatively good chance of making it in, I think. And by that I mean, I'm not gonna say something like Superman should be in, right? Or Goku, you know, those would be silly characters to put on a list, right? But the characters I've selected have a chance. There's something there that means that they have a good chance. The ordering of the list is really just, it's a sort of a combination of likelihood as well as my personal desire to see that character. So all that said, we can just start. There's been a lot of clamor for a new Donkey Kong rep. There's only two at the moment. There's Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. And I mean, Donkey Kong you can almost consider just a Mario character. Diddy Kong is sort of came from Donkey Kong Country, so he is really a Donkey Kong Country character more than he is a Mario character, but he now appears in Mario games. Sort of the two worlds are sort of mixed together. It's kind of weird. But a new Donkey Kong character, a character that's like from Donkey Kong Country. So we've got like these new games that came out. We've got Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which just came out, which is sort of establishing a new interest in the franchise and the characters. So I think with those games, there's a good chance we can finally get like a new character from Donkey Kong Country. And there's definitely a few characters that could work. You've got the rest of the Donkey Kong 64 crew, which is like Lanky Kong, Tiny Kong, and Chunky Kong. Aside from them, there's like Funky Kong and Kiddy Kong. Kiddy Kong's from Donkey Kong Country 3. All of those characters could be brought in as extra Donkey Kong characters.
But I think the two most likely ones are either Dixie Kong or King K. Rool. I think of the two, King K. Rool's probably the one that people most want, it seems. He's the one people are clamoring about. And I think he'd be great. He'd be a great addition. I'd like to see him, I wouldn't mind him showing up. But if what I really think of as, iconic Donkey Kong Country characters, Dixie is definitely very high up on that list. She was a main character in 2 of the original 3 Donkey Kong Country games. She was a main character in 2 and 3, which is something she only shares with Diddy Kong, who was in Donkey Kong Country 1 and Donkey Kong Country 2. She's unique, she's unique enough as her own character that her moveset would probably be very different from Diddy Kong or Donkey Kong. She's got this like hair helicopter glide thing, which I think would add, an interesting flair to her attacks. I think of the two, Dixie's probably the one I'd personally like to see the most show up. But I'd be happy with K. Rool as well. K. Rool as a fighter would probably be more of a brawler. He's also got that crown that he can throw. He'd probably do more of that sort of thing, whereas Dixie would probably she'd be a quicker character, and she'd be more aerial focused, more focused in air attacks like Falco or Jigglypuff. She could also borrow some stuff from Tiny Kong, like maybe the feather gun or something like that, to fill out her moveset if she needs more stuff like that. Because Diddy Kong's got like the peanut gun and the jetpacks to add to his kit. So she could borrow some stuff from Tiny Kong probably. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll get both of these characters. That'd be cool. Be fine with me. So I feel like this is probably going to be the pick where I lose all credibility and people just sort of immediately disregard my opinion. But hear me out on this. So Sora has become sort of like a meme pick at this point, because he's that one fan character everyone wants to happen, yet everyone knows probably not ever going to happen. It's like putting him on your list is like almost as ridiculous as putting like Goku or Naruto on there. It's just people, it's just a silly pick. Like people are like, it's dumb. But with the release of Cloud in Smash 4, in my opinion, the tables have sort of turned on that opinion. Obviously, Cloud's not owned by Nintendo. He's a Final Fantasy character. He's owned by Square Enix, which Sora is also owned by Square Enix. None of the Final Fantasy VII games appeared on a Nintendo console. They were all on PlayStation consoles. Cloud himself has appeared on Nintendo consoles before, though, in a little game called Kingdom Hearts. That's right. Specifically, he was on Chain of Memories, and he was in Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance and Recoded on the DS. If you really think about it, like, Cloud as a character would be far less likely to show up in Smash than Sora, because Sora has actually had games where he's been the main character on Nintendo consoles. Whereas Cloud hasn't, but Cloud is in Smash, and Sora is not. So, it'd be cool if we got Cloud back again for Smash 5. I don't know how likely that is. If we don't, maybe we could get Sora. And if we do, then we should also get Sora as well. Okay. Alright, so this one I feel like I might lose people on as well. I feel like maybe I should have spaced these out, or maybe it's better to just get these two out of the way so we can move on to like the less controversial stuff. I have included 3 Sonic characters here, because I think they're all somewhat likely. I mean, as likely as like any Sonic character is. I mean, they're all equally likely to each other, right? Not necessarily in the grand scheme of things, they're very likely. I don't think all 3 will show up, obviously. I think one of these, if they were to pick a Sonic character, it would be one of these 3. So ever since Melee, people have wanted Sonic and Tails in Smash. I remember, like, back in the day, there was this rumor that you could unlock them in Melee. There were always these 2 empty spaces on the character select screen that would just like sit there, like they were just empty, and they would just constantly taunt you, you know. And this led to a lot of rumors about the game, about extra characters you can unlock that would fill those slots. There were so many of them. It was ridiculous, and one of the most popular ones was the Sonic and Tails. First off, because they were very popular characters, and of course people really wanted to believe that Sonic and Tails were in Smash. And then also, it seemed to make sense because there were 2 slots, right? 2 empty slots, so you get both at the same time, and it's like that fills out the 2 slots, so that makes sense. So, back in the day there were like a bunch of altered screenshots and stuff to make it more believable. I personally tried to unlock them both for months, like when I was a kid, several months. Tried several different things to unlock them, and it never worked. But it was a very memorable, like, experience. It was one of these big urban legends that used to be, you know, all over the video game scene. Just because there was less of a way to verify any of this stuff back in the day, so you just sort of had to try and see if it worked. So with the release of Brawl, something big happened that everybody was shocked about. The announcement that Sonic would be in Smash, on the Smash Dojo site, which was basically the site for announcing Brawl characters and stages and stuff. It was kind of cool. You'd go there every day and maybe there'd be a new announcement, and you'd see like what new character showed up, or oh, there's this stage. And it was very exciting time. It was kind of a problem though, because it sort of spoiled everything, and then once you get the game, it's like you just get all the characters and there's less of the fun, but whatever. After that, everyone waited to see if any other Sonic characters might make it in. If Sonic made it in, maybe Tails will make it in, you know? There was a lot of speculation that Tails or Shadow or Knuckles would be hidden, unlockable characters. Like, maybe they didn't announce him, but maybe he'll be an unlockable. Nobody really knew. I think they announced like a bunch of unlockable characters, but still people thought, oh, maybe they didn't announce all of them, you know? But it turns out they totally did. They announced every single character that was going to be in the game before it came out. So Sonic's been in the game since Brawl, and he's probably going to show up in Smash 5 as well. It seems to me he's become sort of a series mainstay. I don't think it's unlikely that they could add either another Sega character in general or another Sonic character. I think the most popular character, the one people would probably want to see the most, is probably Shadow. I don't really know why. He's whatever. I won't get into that. But I feel like if they put him in the game, he'd probably just be a clone of Sonic. It'd just be the same character, you know. So for that reason, I didn't really put him on my list. I think the most likely would either be Tails or Eggman. Tails, I think, just because he's almost as iconic as Sonic. You know, he's been in the series since Sonic 2. So he's just kind of, you know, iconic in the series himself. So it would make a lot of sense to put Tails in. Eggman, I was thinking maybe because he's also he's been in the series from the beginning. He's the main antagonist, right? So it'd make a lot of sense to put, you know, your enemy next to your hero and have them both in the game. And while I think those are the two most likely, I also want to throw Knuckles into the mix because he plays very differently from Sonic, as would Tails probably. But he's more of a brawler. I feel like he'd just be really interesting. You know, he'd be a little slower, more of a brawler. But he would have, you know, Knuckles is iconic in his own right. He's got that glide that he can do, which is unique. He's been in the franchise since Sonic 3, so he's been around almost as long as the others, but Tails has got one game up on him, so there's that. And personally, I think Knuckles would probably be more fun to play as than Tails, and that's why I would probably prefer Knuckles. But that's just my opinion. There's other Sonic characters like Rouge the Bat, or Amy, right? And a bunch of other Sonic characters. There's so many. I don't think those are as likely to happen just because they haven't been around nearly as long. If you were to pick, you know, an iconic Sonic character, I don't think you would pick them over, you know, Tails or Knuckles. But you know, if they want to include one of those, I don't mind. I don't mind whatever you want to do. So we want a new Metroid rep. This is known. We have Samus and Zero Suit Samus, but those are the same character. The most popular pick is Ridley, of course. He's been the most popular forever. People still want their favorite purple space dragon to make an appearance. I personally love Ridley as much as the next guy, but I just don't think he'd work in Smash. An important part of his character is his large, sort of imposing size. He's supposed to be huge and terrifying. It's a pretty important aspect of who he is. It's what makes him kind of a memorable figure in Metroid. His size does vary between games, that's true. There have been mods in the past to put Ridley in as a skin. I've seen him be put in the game as a skin for Charizard, and while that functionally works, it just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem like the Ridley that I know. Now a lot of wars have been fought in many a comment section over this. He's too big, the haters say. No, he isn't. Or they could make him smaller, say the believers. Personally, I think it's silly. I just don't see how it could work. If they can make it work, more power to them. He's not on my list though. So there's several characters in Metroid that I think can work, especially since Metroid Prime Hunters and Metroid Prime 3 exist. These games introduced a slew of humanoid bounty hunters who could easily be brought to Smash. Then there's Dark Samus. Dark Samus is different from like the SAX from Metroid Fusion because the SAX is basically just a clone of Samus. She has all the same abilities and everything, but Dark Samus has some similar abilities, but also a lot of unique ones. Here's a short spoiler for Metroid Prime 1. But it turns out Dark Samus is a fusion between Metroid Prime and Samus Phazon suit. And they say that in like the secret ending or they show the suit coming out of the dead Metroid Prime. Dark Samus abilities are Phazon based, and she has some interesting Phazon abilities that Samus doesn't. She also sort of floats around really creepily instead of walking, which is a cool little character distinction, I think. It'll make her stand out, for sure. I think Dark Samus could work. If they put her in, I just hope... I feel like my worry about putting her in is that they would just make her into a clone, which is not good. She should be very different. So for that reason, I didn't include her. But I feel like I could have. You know, I like Dark Samus. I feel like I could have included her on this, in this section as well. So to get to the characters I actually did include here, there's 3 of them. First off is the Space Pirate. Space Pirates are sort of the iconic antagonist to Samus from all of the Metroid games. There's a bunch of different types. So you've got like the Aero Troopers, you have the Jet Packs, you've got the Big Elite Troopers, the Silver and Gold Space Pirates who have they're harder to kill. It's harder to pierce their armor, and they have the acrobatic, like ninja-like abilities. You've got like the Grenadiers, the Cloak Troopers who are like invisible, and the Hussar Pirates who like ride the those little creatures, those big creatures. And they just have a bunch of different weapons and abilities. And you've also got Weevil from Prime Hunters, he's a space pirate. And I think you could create like an amalgate character here with a fairly decent moveset if you just combined all of the things that space pirates have, which is a lot of things. You might notice I also put an X. I put the X on here. This is kind of like a stupid idea I had, but it's something I came up with that could add like some extra variety if you had the space pirate and you're just like, I can't do enough. So the X Parasite can take on the appearance of any of the creatures of SR388. They have taken on the appearance of space pirates as well, so I would think you could create like an X Parasite character and have his default form be a space pirate, and then if you wanted to add extra moves, you could just let him transform into some other SR388 enemies for some like extra abilities and whatnot. But just you should just have him return straight to the space pirate form after that. It's not a transformation character, and the hitboxes really shouldn't be messed with too much there. It could work. I don't really know. It might be too confusing to play against, because the hitboxes may seem weird if you transform to something else. And it might not lend very well to a very cohesive and easy to understand character. People will not really get what he is or what he's about on that screen, and he's not really his own thing. So he might just kind of be weird and not a very popular character. But that's just sort of an idea I wanted to throw out there. And I think with the X-Parasite idea, there's a lot more interesting things you could do in regard to a Final Smash, at least. So there's that. Lastly, I put Psylux on here. I think... So Psylux is distinct from the other hunters because he's the only one that is tied... He's the only one that has been in another game. His backstory is fairly mysterious. We don't really know much about him, except that he was searching for Guria, the ultimate power, I believe, just much like everyone else. But he does appear at the end of Prime 3 as like a sort of Easter egg or cliffhanger. It's quite likely that he'll play some larger role in Prime 4. Here's another spoiler alert for Prime 3. From the end of Prime 3, Dark Samus is dead and Phase is gone. So I feel like, you know, Psylux will probably be someone they bring in for Prime 4 to have an antagonist for Prime 4 or something. And I feel like if they do that, his inclusion in Smash could allude to his larger role in the Metroid universe. So yeah, I think Psylux could definitely show up. Baten Kaitos existed, guys. Don't know if you heard. Baten Kaitos Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean and Baten Kaitos Origins were some really great hidden gems on the GameCube. These were sort of RPG type games, but with a battle system based around cards. Depending on the types of cards you selected and the order in which you select them, you can pull off interesting combos for like high damage or block damage from enemies or heal your teammates. These cards in the game, they were called Magnus, and they basically absorbed the essence of certain things in the world so they could be used to solve puzzles or in combat situations. An interesting mechanic that was in the game was, say, you could store like food in a Magnus, but the food would decay over time, so you could use it as like a healing item, but over time it would decay, and then it would instead of healing, it would start to do like damage or inflict poison, stuff like that. Out of these Magnus, I feel like they could make a really interesting moveset. It'd also be nice to see the franchise finally come into the limelight again. Or not again, but for the first time maybe. I don't think it was ever even really in the limelight. And maybe create some hype for it to make a return. I'd love to see it come back. It's a Nintendo franchise. They don't have to get permission to use any of those characters. They own those characters. They even used some songs from the game in Smash 4's soundtrack, which is another thing that the game has like a really amazing soundtrack. You'll probably be hearing some of those songs right now over the video. Callus and Saggy were the two main characters from each of those games, so I think if any character would be chosen from Baten Kaitos, it'd be one of those two. Callus' design I think is slightly cooler. I like his design a little better, so I'd prefer if they put Callus in. You know, whatever you want to do. One of those two. Yes, I do still want Skull Kid in Smash. A new Zelda rep is bound to happen, I think, for this game. Since Breath of the Wild introduced several new iconic characters, it might be more likely that one of them makes it in, like one of the champions, or all of them. Maybe they just throw all of the champions in. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they will change Link's appearance to the Breath of the Wild appearance. Maybe they'll change Zelda's appearance from her Twilight Princess appearance to her Breath of the Wild appearance, which they didn't even do for Skyward Sword. Though I don't know if I see that Zelda with a Smash Zelda's moveset exactly. It might be a little weird to see, because the Zelda in Breath of the Wild doesn't seem all that, you know, poofy magical. Maybe Zelda will be added as a different character, and they'll have both classic and Breath of the Wild Zelda. That'd be interesting. I might be stuck in the past, since I still want Skull Kid quite a lot more than, say, like Yugo or Girahim or Zant or Ravio or Hilda or any of those characters. I just really like the Skull Kid. He's this lonely and isolated kid who managed to finally make friends with a pair of fairies, but ended up playing some pranks, which caused him to stumble upon the malevolent influence of a dark and ancient demonic power. Overwhelmed by the mass to become a hateful and abusive person who wants nothing more than to see the world destroyed in the most dramatic and terrifying way possible. He's imbued with extremely powerful dark magic, which is enough to bring the moon to life and convince it to consume the world below. He's a really cool character, and he's a very tragic character as well. Majora's Mask is one of my favorite Zelda games, if not my favorite. And I still can't really think of any Zelda character I want in Smash more than Skull Kid. Though I will have some honorable mentions later that I want as well. And again, the others I've named I wouldn't mind to have. I won't feel shafted or anything if another character is selected. Majora's Mask has not really been relevant for a long while. So to bring a new Zelda character from that game and not from one of the newer ones would be weird. I get that, but I'd like it, so that's why it's here. I know. So you're probably wondering, or you're probably saying to me, what am I thinking? You know, that'll never happen. You know, you might as well ask for Kratos or something. Well, there is a good reason behind this choice. Resident Evil is owned by Capcom. We have 2 Capcom reps in Smash already, which is Mega Man and Ryu. Why not a third? And I think Resident Evil is as good a choice as any for representation, or at least it's one of my favorite Capcom franchises. Sure, you've got Dead Risings, Darkstalkers, Beautiful Joe, Kami, Phoenix Wright, Devil May Cry. And I think Beautiful Joe, Amaterasu, and Dante would be great additions in their own right, actually. In fact, they'd probably be better characters, actually, now that I think about it. I'm starting to think this is actually a terrible choice, considering. But I didn't want to clutter my list with a bunch of Capcom characters. So I picked Resident Evil since that's a franchise I've loved and followed for basically my entire adult life. The best character, I think, functionally, from a character standpoint, to add would probably be like Nemesis or Wesker. Because Wesker, he's got a bunch of interesting abilities that could be easily turned into something. But if you want to represent the franchise, more than likely, I think you're going to pick a main character if you're only going to pick one. I think Leon S. Kennedy is likely the most popular character, due to his pretty boy design, his cynical attitude, and his predilection for making bad jokes. And Resident Evil 4 is likely the most beloved game in the franchise, probably. Chris Redfield is, to me, more of the main character and driving force of the franchise, appearing in the most games in the series, and the fact that the main antagonist, Wesker, in a basic sense, considers Chris his nemesis and not really Jill or Claire, even though he met Jill in the first mansion incident, and then he met Claire in Code Veronica. And I think it was because Chris was in both of those games and he foiled his plan both times that he sort of has taken a distinct dislike to Chris. But, you know, I'll take any of the Resident Evil characters, as they would all probably have the same moveset. They're all people with guns. You could have Jill or Claire, or even like Rebecca or Billy or Carlos, Sherry or Ada even. There's a whole bunch of characters. Claire, I think, is my personal favorite character, though I just don't think she would be put in the game over like Leon or Chris. Also, a problem with that is that Smash doesn't like to include guns. You can see that by what they try to do with Snake. If you see Snake, they gave him a bunch of explosives, which is weird. Because he's not really... he doesn't actually use a whole lot of explosives in Metal Gear Solid. But they could make it sort of more cartoony with explosions, right? It's less bloody and weird. It's just more cartoony violence if you just have a bunch of explosions. So that's kind of weird because... well, actually, like, they have rocket launchers and stuff in Resident Evil, so I don't know, maybe they could do that. If they do put Chris in, I feel like they'd probably make a joke about him getting roided up and punching a boulder or something. They might make that his final Smash. I don't think he's ever really gonna live that one down. So while we're on the subject of third-party reps, why not get a Konami rep? We had one before with Snake in Brawl. He didn't come back for Smash 4, but maybe he could come back for Smash 5. When I think of Konami, one of the franchises that comes to mind is Castlevania. I think it'd be cool to have a Castlevania character in Smash. I think Simon Belmont would be a really interesting character in Smash. All of his attacks would probably be based off his multi-directional whip, which is the Vampire Killer, I believe it's called. As well as the other like extra items. He can pick up like the holy water and the dagger, stuff like that, and there was like an axe as well, I think, and a cross. They could also play up the NES nostalgia appeal like they did for Mega Man. He'd be a good fit. I think he'd really work. Plus we could get like a cool gothic Castlevania stage and some classic like music revamped or something. I just think it'd be really cool to like have like a Castlevania stage and have like bloody tears in the background, just have everybody fighting them. I just think that'd be cool. I don't know. Other characters from Castlevania might work as well, like maybe Alucard or Soma or Richter Belmont. Soma appeared on Nintendo stuff, I believe, strictly Nintendo stuff, so maybe Soma could work. Richter was in Rondo of Blood. Alucard is probably a fan favorite because Symphony of the Night, I think, is the most popular Castlevania there is. And then you could always have just Dracula in if you really wanted to. But I think Simon would fit in best for that NES Nintendo appeal. Much like Bat and Katos, this pick is pretty personal and it's very self-serving. Golden Sun was a series I loved when I was younger, which was kind of fallen by the wayside. There hasn't been a new game in a while, not since Dark Dawn on the DS, which they actually set up for a sequel. It ended on a cliffhanger and then they never made that sequel, so I guess it must not have done well. Compared to Bat and Katos though, Golden Sun has quite a much larger following, and I think a lot of people are definitely asking for Isaac to be in Smash. They have been for quite a while. People were split when he was announced as an assist trophy in Brawl. Some were upset, others thought to themselves, well, at least he's in the game. At least Golden Sun's being acknowledged, Then when Little Mac was announced as a playable character in Smash 4, suddenly there was hope again. If Little Mac could go from assist trophy to playable character, then why not Isaac? Weirdly, Isaac didn't even get the assist trophy treatment in Smash 4. He sort of just disappeared. Well, I and many others still want to see our boy as a playable character in Smash. He's so many abilities to choose from. He's got Quake, and Thorn, and Spire, and Catch, and Scoop, and Sand. He's got Move, Tremor, Gaia, Haunt, Ragnarok, Odyssey. All very great moves. Not to mention, he's also got the abilities of the Earth Genie, or any of the Genie, really. Genie, I guess they're called. Felix would work as well. He could also use like the Fire Genie, or the Wind Genie, or whatever, the Water Genie. There's no reason he couldn't use those, and they could add to his set as well. You could also have Felix instead of Isaac, since he was the main character of the second game, though I just think Isaac would make more sense as sort of the main character. And if they wanted to make a sequel, it would probably take place after Dark Dawn, in which case it would continue Matthew's story with his friends. And if they wanted to build up hype for that, and maybe, generate some, if they wanted to generate hype for that, they could put Matthew in instead and have Matthew be the Golden Sun guy. I'm not personally saying that's preferable. I don't think that's personally preferable, the best character from Golden Sun they should be putting in, but I'm just saying, if you want to generate hype, I don't know, give them a character that they can play the next game as, So this, number one, was really the easiest choice. When I first decided to put the list together, this was the first character I thought of. No More Heroes is just one of the best games on the Wii. It went to show that the Wii, it wasn't just like some shitty shovelware or gimmicky motion controller gameplay with no substance. No More Heroes was fun. It was fast-paced and exciting. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Travis Touchdown, he's a great character. He's kind of like a sleazy dork. He's obsessed with anime and pro wrestling, but then he goes out and he proves himself to be the world's greatest assassin twice. He cracks jokes in the face of like incredible violence and destruction. It's very, there's a good juxtaposition there. He is motivated through the game entirely by the premise of getting to sleep with Sylvia, who is this girl who shows up and wants him to participate in the assassination thing. He's a lot of fun, and he's got a lot of personality. He brandishes these beam katanas, as they're called, which are basically like lightsabers from Star Wars. At first, when he starts the game, he uses just one, and then at the end, he's using two at the same time. They're very fun weapons to battle with, and he integrates a lot of pro wrestling moves because he's a big fan of pro wrestling. I think he'd be just really fun. And there's also a new No More Heroes game coming out, so it'd be great for promotion of the game, probably.
Hey, so I changed my shirt. So basically that's my list for the top 10 characters I'd like to see in Smash 5. Now for some honorable mentions, I saved these till the end. Some of them I've mentioned already, like Dark Samus, Beautiful Joe, Dante, Amaterasu, Girahim, and Zant. There's a couple others. I know a lot of these characters, now that I'm done the list, I think a lot of them were third party, but I cheated a bit because I included a couple characters in like per item, which I probably shouldn't have done. But since they were related, I was like, I didn't want to like it was hard to choose Dixie Kong over King K. Rool, right? It's hard to pick one. I don't know. Whatever. But some honorable mentions. So there's Wonder Red from Wonderful 101, which a lot of people want. I didn't include him because I haven't played Wonderful 101, so a lot of people seem to like that game and want to see the character in the game, so, you know, I can get behind that. I have no issue with that. Another one I've seen talked about a lot is from Star Tropics. Another game I've played bits and pieces of it. I'm not sure exactly what the appeal of the character specifically is. But what I think is a lot of people just want that series to come back, which is another thing, you know, I can get behind. Saki from Sin and Punishment was one I actually had on my list before, but replaced him with somebody else. I can't remember exactly who. Skull Kid, maybe? It might have been Skull Kid. I played Sin and Punishment, and I really like it. Saki's a great character. I feel like, yeah, he definitely deserves to be given a promotion from Assist Trophy, much like a lot of the characters in there, like Isaac and Little Mac as well. Character's got a lot of potential. Paper Mario, that's another one. You know, he's very distinct, and he's very different from normal Mario, and I could see them making a very distinct playset for him, and he would be a very unique character. The thing is, there's so many Mario characters already that I just don't feel comfortable saying we should put in another Mario character, you know? There's so many other franchises, I think, that deserve representation, so it's hard for me to put in Mario, and that goes the same for characters like Waluigi and Geno. I also didn't include them for the same reason. Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia, that's another one. That was another third-party one. We've had Pac-Man in, which is a Namco franchise, and so Lloyd, you know, it could happen. I just don't think there's any reason to bring back that character. There's no reason to since that franchise has sort of moved on from there, they're still making new and new games, and Tales of Symphonia is kind of over. The reason he's such a popular character is because that specific game was on the GameCube, and it got really, really popular for some reason on a Nintendo thing. So a lot of people, you know, they want to see Lloyd come back. Another reason I didn't want to go too hard with a third-party character, so that's another reason I didn't put him on the list. And you know, it's such a thin connection, just for him being on the GameCube. You know, I can't really think of a really good reason other than he's a popular character, right? Bandana D should definitely be in Smash. I have no question. If you want to, you can consider that my number 11. Kirby definitely needs another rep. I wish I could have put him on my list. I should have put him on my list. I feel bad, but he's number 11. Let's just say that. Starfy is another one. He could come. He's just sort of a Kirby-esque character. He could be something. His games aren't really very well known in the West, and I think that's part of the problem there. But he'd be cool. One of the ones I was talking about earlier that I would talk more about in my honorable mentions about the Zelda characters, some of the ideas I had were Toon Zelda and Toon Ganondorf, since they already have Toon Link. I think they'd be very different characters. Tetra is probably my favorite Zelda aside from Breath of the Wild Zelda. I think they could really do something unique because of the element of her character. She's like a pirate captain, so there's a lot you can do with that. Toon Ganondorf, he uses two sabers to attack. I think he'd be a very different character from the Captain Falcon clone that we have currently, and the magic-focused one. Last but not least, I think some characters should make a return, like Wolf O'Donnell from Brawl. I really liked Wolf. He was very different from Fox or Falco in that he was more weighty and powerful than the other two. It was nice, like, trinity they had. The Ice Climbers should definitely be brought back. They're iconic. They deserve to be in every single Smash game from now on. They were left out in the last game because of hardware limitations on the 3DS. Apparently they couldn't make it work, but there's no reason for them not to be in Smash 5. Snake I'd like to see come back. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty unlikely at this point, but I'd like to see him come back as well. The rest of them I could take or leave. I don't think there's much reason to bring Pichu back. I still kind of like Pichu because he was a faster Pikachu, but he hurt himself. But they kind of made Pikachu faster anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Then there's Young Link. He doesn't need to come back because they replaced him with Toon Link, but I feel like they could do some unique stuff with Young Link because, you know, they could give him some stuff from Majora's Mask, maybe his transformations or anything, and make him into a very different character so he wouldn't be redundant. Then Squirtle and Ivysaur were kind of weird inclusions to begin with because they came in with Pokemon Trainer, so it sort of made sense for that character to have the three. But by themselves, especially Ivysaur is kind of like a weird inclusion. But I guess I wouldn't mind having them back. I'm just not clamoring for it, I guess. That's about all I have. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can comment, you can like, you can subscribe. You can do those things. If people like this video, I might make more. If you didn't like it, that's also fine. You can also tell me why in the comments. You know, constructive criticism is appreciated because, you know, I want to improve as much as possible. And if you disagree or you have other things, your own list or whatever, you can leave that as well in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hmm.